Hey, single playing golfers. Want to welcome you back to the Tim Graves What Else Is New podcast. Haven't done one in a little while, so I thought it was time to get back in the office and get one of these podcasts going. I'm getting bugged by Clayton here to get a podcast going, so I'm here. I've been traveling a lot. I've been going. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've been to Orlando, been to Phoenix, been to Monterey, back to Phoenix, and then now finally Oklahoma City for a couple of days, and then take off again next week, go to Wichita, and then go back into Phoenix. And anyway, but while I'm in the office for a couple of days, I thought I'd give you guys a quick little podcast here and have some fun with it. And it's interesting because at the last school, or one of the last few schools I did last week, I was doing a short game school out in Phoenix. And I don't know if you guys have been to our schools or not, but one of the things we do is each morning, the first morning of the school, whether it's a 2-day, 3-day, 5-day school, is always introductions and just kind of get everybody into the groove of the school and having some fun and so on, and trying to lighten the load. Because I know a lot of people, when they come to schools, and they're pretty nervous, and they think, I'm the worst golfer here. I'm going to be the oldest golfer here, or the one in the worst condition here, whatever. And they quickly realize they're not. They never are. But so the first morning of the schools, we're always trying to get people, over the nerves and just to have some fun. The more fun you have, the better the schools are, and the more you're going to learn. But the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever days, the mornings, we always start out with kind of a Q&A session. We'll have, questions from the day before, things that are on the students' minds, different things. And then, we usually present some new topics, and we get out and we start practicing, working on things. In the second day of the short game school, I typically present, how to practice, and a little bit how to practice your short game, and things, where you can really work on your short game and get better at the short game. And it's interesting because in this last school, I presented it like I have the other short game schools. And one of the things I presented was how players that are good, or good players, enjoy, or they will try to practice on the golf course, meaning they will get on the course and practice their game. It can be more than just their short game, but in particular, obviously I was talking about the short game in this school. And I'll be honest with you, I think there's 18 students in the school. It freaked out 3/4 of them. They kind of almost lost their mind. It was interesting. In fact, I don't want to say this, but there's one lady there that was super sweet lady that was at the school. And we almost got an argument about how she was like, you can't just go on the golf course and practice. Excuse me. You've got to go out there and you got to keep score every time. And I was like, yeah, no, you don't. I was like, here's the thing. And I'm going to back up a couple steps here. Excuse me. I go out and play the course I play at. I've talked to you guys about this before. There's a lot of really good players. Obviously, probably the number one player in the world now, Victor Hovland, practices out there when he's in town. It's his home course. And, I practice with him on the tee. I practice with him on the short game. I've been on the course with him a few times. It's not often because he's not here a lot. But there's 20 some touring professionals at that course that practice out of about 200 members. And so you're always around. And then besides that, there's top college players in the country, and there's top high school players in the country. Literally, there is. And then I include myself as a decent golfer. I include obviously Todd as a decent golfer. And we watch how they practice. It's how we practice, and so on. And one of the things that good players do is they find time to get on the golf course and practice. Okay. It's not about going out there and keeping score most of the time. In fact, I'll be honest with you. When I watch these players practice, or I practice, 90% of the time we get in the golf course, we're not keeping score. We go out on the course and we literally are. Now we'll play, for example, I'll tell you what I mean by this. For example, if I'll go out there and play with one of these really good players, or maybe I'm playing by myself, and we'll go start in the, maybe the back nine, we'll start in the front nine, whatever it is. We try to find a spot on the golf course we can get on where it's not busy. Yes, it's typically not on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, or maybe a Wednesday afternoon after work, whatever. We're trying to find a time on the golf course that we can get on when it's not busy. And when I brought this up in the short games, when I was talking to this group, they looked at me like I was like, there's no way you can do that. And I said, yeah, it is. I said, what time is it right now? I said, look at your watches. And they all looked at their watch. It was like 8:30 in the morning. I said, it's 8:30 in the morning, in Phoenix time. I said, what's the first tee look like right now out here? And they go, well, it's packed. As we drove back here to the academy, we came back here, you guys shuttled us back here. There was 3 groups on the first tee. And I go, yeah, you're right. What's the 10th tee look like right now? And they looked at me and I said, yeah, there's not a body on that 10T. In fact, the furthest person on this golf course right now is probably on hole number 4 or 5. Okay. I said, right now you could go buy green fee, or if you remember this course, you could go and jump on number 10T and play the back 9. And you could play number 10, number 11, number 12, and you never see a body. Or you could go out there with a buddy and you could go play that. Okay. I said, and when you're playing those holes, how about play the hole? So let's say we go play number 10, play the hole. It's a little par 4, whatever, play the hole. And then when you get done the hole, go around the green and start hitting a chip from a side hill lie or an uphill lie, or go throw a ball in a bunker that's got a big lip, or go maybe throw in some deep grass on the side and go chip out of that, or maybe go 40 or 50 yards out from the green and hit some pitch shots. How about try to go hit some shots on the golf course that you will not be able to find in a practice area? Even the best practice areas on the golf course or on an academy or whatever, you're not going to find that type of shot. The only place you're going to find that is on a golf course. Okay. And they all kind of looked at me and the students are kind of like, their eyes are kind of big. And I said, oh, how about this? I said, I know a lot of you guys don't have the opportunity, but a lot of you guys have this opportunity. It gets dark out here at about 8 o'clock tonight. Okay. I said, what do you think that first tee is going to look like at about 7 o'clock or maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock? And they all said, yeah, nobody's going to be there. I said, you're right. How about go buy green fee or just go talk to the pro? A lot of times they'll give you a discount. I mean, it's the way they're making money. Nobody's playing that front 9 because everybody thinks they got to go play 18 holes of golf. How about going that front 9, tee off about 7 o'clock and just play till it gets dark? So maybe you play the first 5 or 6 holes. And I always say this as a PGA pro, just don't be the last cart in the barn. Meaning, don't be that last guy out there. The cart boys are waiting for you. No, just get in before dark. Okay. But go out there and do the same thing. I'll go play number 1. And here's the interesting part. So many people will be so nervous off their number 1 tee because, everybody's watching them, and I think it's like this big deal and the starter cares, which let me give you guys a hint. The starter doesn't care. He just wants you to get down the fairway and get off his tee. Okay. But he doesn't care. He doesn't care that you're there. We get nervous because we put nerves upon ourselves. Okay. We make ourselves nervous. But how about this? Go in that first hole and play it. And there's nobody there. You're by yourself, or maybe one friend's with you, or whatever, but you're by yourself and you're just playing that first hole. And how about get on there and realize why it's the same hole, same shot, same tee ball I've always had. Okay. No big deal. But with nobody out there, nobody caring, how come it makes it a lot easier? And remember how easy that was compared to when you're out there normally playing that first hole and there's, a group waiting for you and a group ahead of you and the starter, they're pushing you. How about remember how easy that was and doing that next time? And then how about this? Go play that first hole. Let's say you have a second shot from I'm just making this up, but 160 yards from the right rough. Okay. And you hit the shot and you don't hit it well. How about drop 3 or 4 balls there and try it? Try 3 or 4 balls there from that same shot. Don't see, when you go play golf and you're playing your Saturdays, your Sundays, you're just playing with your group, you got one chance. You hit that one shot, you got one chance. Well, and then you either hit a good shot, you don't hit a good shot, you go on. How about if you don't hit a good shot or it wasn't what you wanted, go drop 5, 6, 7 balls in there and try it. Where do you get a chance to hit it out of the rough from 150 yards to a green, that's elevated above you or whatever on the range or your practice facility? You don't. This is what good players do. And this is what's interesting. So the question would be, do good players do this and make themselves better? Or do they become good players because they did this? I honestly believe they got to a certain level because they were able to do this. They figured out how to do this. They figured out how to get on the golf course and practice. Okay. And it's interesting, but the more I bring this up, and it's probably a fault to the PGA. I'm a PGA member and maybe I can take fault for it. It's maybe a fault of ours, but it's so much about handicap, and ratings of golf courses and what's the course rating and what's your handicap versus the course rating. And so then all these people always get so tied up and I got to keep score. No, you don't. And it's like when I originally said this, that one lady, the one student, and she was a really sweet lady, but it really freaked her out that I said, you can actually go play golf and not keep score. And she goes, well, how would you do that? And she goes, I don't understand that. And I'm sure she's very tied into her ladies groups, and she does handicaps for her course and so on. And I said, how about this? What would happen if I went out and played golf and quit after 7 holes? What would you do? And she looked at me kind of like, oh, you never do that. I said, yeah, how if I just go play golf and quit after 6 holes? How am I going to keep score? Well, here's what's interesting. I brought the same conversation up to a friend of mine yesterday, and we were playing in a husband and wife that I teach and I work with, and they're very good golfers. And I was out at Oak Tree National yesterday, and I invited them out, and we played some golf yesterday, and she actually has a big tournament at the end of the month, the U.S. Senior Amateur. And so I brought him out and we wanted to get some really good practice in. And we were eating some lunch yesterday, and I brought this up, this little conversation I had. And she said, here's what's interesting, Tim. She goes, I've had this same scenario occur before when I played in ladies tournaments. And she goes, ladies literally will take a score for 6 holes and multiply it by 3 and say that's your handicap. They'll figure out a way to make this count. She goes, I've even played in ladies groups where she goes, I played in a best ball where you're literally getting advice from your partner. You're picking up at times and they want you to turn in a score. That's crazy. I mean, guys, I understand it's important to keep a handicap. There is times and places you're going to keep scores and handicaps. And I understand that. And I know how when you play in a tournament, the handicap, that score counts more for your handicap system. Okay. But guys, if you want to get better at golf, you have to figure out a way to go get on the golf course and practice. Okay. And every place is different. I mean, there may be, go talk to your local pro, talk to the assistant pro, talk to somebody in there. I mean, the advice I will give you, and then I'll get some more depth there, but the advice I will give you is, number one, stay friends with if you're going to go out there early, stay friends with the maintenance crew. Don't get around the greens, the mowers. If you stay just behind them, sometimes just ahead of them, you're great. And it's funny, but this is true. Most golf courses, and I used to do this. Now, the course I'm at now, I don't have to because it's not as busy and I can get out there on any time pretty much and find places to play. But the course I used to play was a very busy course. And I used to go out in the mornings before work, okay? And this is when I worked for a living. And I used to go out in the mornings and I'd try to play some holes of golf. This was, early in the morning. And if any of you guys know this or not, but superintendents usually have a dog or two with them. I mean, they bring on the courses. They're usually their pets or the golf course dog, and they scare the geese off, and they're just the pets of the course. I used to bring biscuits out and give it to the dogs in the morning, to make friends with the dogs. And so there was a couple of times I'd go out there and the superintendent would be there and the dog would see me, he'd come right over to me because he wanted a biscuit in the morning. Make friends with your superintendents out there. If you go early in the mornings, they'll love you and they're cool about it, but you get to go out there and practice. Okay. So if you're that first guy behind the mowers, so they're on number 2, number 3, and you're number 1, number 2, that's perfect. Go out there. We call it the rabbit groups, at times, but you can get out there and find it. There's times you can find that the golf courses are quiet that you can practice. Here's the other advice. There's also times on your golf course where there is just slow groups out there. Okay. There may be a 5-some that's just notoriously slow. I mean, they may play in 4.5 to 5 hours, or maybe some 4, there's groups and sometimes they play every single day. They're just a slow group. Your pro knows who those guys are. You can get just ahead of them. Okay. And if you get just ahead, not behind them, but you get just ahead of them. Okay. On the golf course, you can play as slow as you want. They're not going to catch you. Kind of look over your shoulder every so often to make sure they're not on top of you, and you are fine. You will see there'll be a hole or two open ahead of you. That slow groups behind you. You can stay just ahead of them. Okay. I do that quite often in my course. There's a couple slower groups that play off at noon, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the day. I'll get just ahead of them, jump out there and get just ahead of them. And now guess I get to what to do. I get to do. Guys, all of a sudden I'm playing the 3rd hole, for example, and the pin's tucked to left-hand side and I hit it left and it short sides myself and I'm down the hill. I try to get up and down from there. I don't. I can go drop 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 shots from there and try it. Keep working on it. In fact, in my short game masterclass, I talk about this. I talked about, I call it the old, well, I can say it in a podcast, the old shit game. It's the old crap game. We can call it that way for be friendly. Okay. But it's called the old crap game. Play this game next time you go on the golf course. Hit a shot. I do this with my students often when I take them on the course for instruction. Play a hole out. So say we play number 12, 13, whatever. Play it out. And then after you get done the hole, look around the green and find a short game shot, a chip pitch around the green, maybe a long putt, whatever it is. That's like an oh crap shot. Like if you had that, you walk up there and go, oh crap, this is a hard shot. This is going to be tough to get up and down, or this is going to be tough to 2-putt or whatever it is. Oh crap, that's a tough shot. And drop a couple balls there and see if you can get up and down, or see if you can 2-putt from there or whatever it is. Okay. Try it. And if you can't do it, try it again. Because let me give you a secret. You play that game, it makes average short game shots easy. Because if you can even attempt to get the tough ones up and down, and you get, you get that creativeness, and you get going with that, it makes the other ones easy. But what opportunity do you get to practice that? That's the problem. And that's why this is like the extreme of getting on course practice. You got to be creative out there when you do it. I'll never forget, there was a story. I was listening to Tom Kite one time, and Tom Kite, hopefully you guys know who Tom Kite is. I brought that up one time into school, and it was some younger group, and they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, really? Tom Kite, one of the leading money winners of all time on tour, U.S. Open champion, multiple tour champion. Obviously one of the top players ever. He was in the Tom Watson, and the Jack Nicklaus era, a little bit younger than them, but not much. But Tom Kite was known. He wasn't a long ball hitter. In fact, he was not. He hit it relatively short, but won a lot. Okay. One of the best players of all time. But Tom Kite was known for the accuracy off the tee. He was amazingly accurate off the tee. his percentage of fairways were 80%, 90%. I mean, they just blow today's stats away. It was crazy how accurate he was off the tee. And one per time somebody asked him, they said, Tom, they said, how did you become so accurate off the tee? I mean, it's just crazy. And he said, I'll tell you what I did. He goes, Tom Kite is from Austin, Texas. And Tom Kite says, when I'm at home, or when I grew up and when I practiced in Austin, he still did to that day. He said, the country club I play on, one of the holes in the back nine is extremely tight. He goes, it looks like jail. That's what he described it, jail on both sides of the fairways. He goes, he stood up on the tee. He goes, it was a nerve-wracking hole. It was a little par four, but he goes, it was crazy. He goes, in fact, most people wouldn't even hit driver off the tee because it was so tight. Okay. He goes, you will never find a tighter golf hole ever. And he goes, I used to go out in the morning. He goes, about 7 o'clock in the morning, he called it dew sweeping. He goes, I would go and the dew was on the ground. He goes, I'd just avoid the greenskeepers. I'd go out and he goes, I'd drop 100 balls in the tee and I'd hit 100 balls down the fairway every morning before the sun, because he said before the sun even came up, but obviously it was just early in the morning. Okay. So literally at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning on the back nine, he's sitting on 13 tee with a shag bag, pounding balls down the fairway. Now think about that. What is he hurting? I mean, he's not making divots in the greens, okay? He's not hitting 100 shots into the greens. He's hitting them down the fairway. He's not getting anybody's way, okay? Obviously, he's Tom Kite, so they're letting him do it, but he's not bothering anybody. But what's he doing? Because then he said, after I did that every day or all the time, every shot, every hole seemed wide open to me. It could be the tightest hole in the world and it seemed wide open to me because he goes, I practiced that shot continually. Well, think about something. When do you get the chance to practice that shot? When you go in a driving range. The driving range isn't tight. There's no nerves to that. I mean, you're working on something. There's no nerves to that. Okay. When you stand up on the golf course and there's water on the left and trees on the right or whatever it is, things change. They dramatically change. Well, if you go out and play on that course and you give yourself one chance, how can you train yourself to get over your nerves? Or how can you make those nerves? You're not going to get over them, but lessen those nerves. That's how you do it. You got to get on the course and practice. So there's just scenarios you can put, and there's hundreds of them. But there's hundreds of scenarios you can mimic on the golf course that you cannot in practice facilities. Okay. And so, that's really kind of, and again, that was the theme of today. And honestly, I hadn't really thought about talking about it in this podcast, but when I did to present in that school last week, it was interesting how it just kind of freaked everybody out. I mean, there's a couple of good players in there and they're like, oh yeah, I mean, I go out there and I'll hit some 2 or 3 shots or I'll do this and do that. But let me give you also an example. Every school I go to, okay, or I teach or manage or whatever you want to call it. Every school, whether it's a short game school or an alumni school or, in a specialty school, because that's basically all Todd and I do anymore is our specialty schools. One of the first days we have what's called Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace. Okay. And basically what that is we ask the students in the first day what do you want to make sure we're going to go over or cover in this school? In other words, what do you want to make sure, what topic do you want to make sure we cover? And the reason we do that is because we don't want to get into the last day of the school and have the student walk up there and go, man, I wish you'd have said this or covered this or talked about this. So we ask them the first day and we'll sit there and say, and think about it throughout the first day and, make sure you tell me what are my assistants and we'll make sure we get in the agenda, especially we can always do in the specialty schools because we always have a little wiggle room in the agenda, and so the room will start thinking and say, okay, I want to make sure you cover that downhill lie shot. Well, okay, we'll make sure we get that in there. Typically is. I want to make sure you cover that, that uphill lie, whatever. Okay. Well, here's what's interesting. 90% of the stuff they say that they want to make sure we cover are things that there's nowhere to really go practice them in a given practice facility. Like they'll say, can you get a severe downhill lie and work on like a pitch up a downhill lie? Okay. Well, where are you going to go practice that at your facility? Well, I don't know. I mean, okay. One of the most common we get, can you give me how to hit a long bunker shot, like a fairway bunker shot? Yeah, we'll do that. Well, where can you practice that at your facility? Okay. Well, here's the deal. The place you can practice is on the golf course. That's where you got to practice those. And the reason they're bringing them up is because they haven't practiced them. They don't know how to practice them. They've never really put themselves in those situations numerous times because their practice facilities don't have those places, which is common, or they never go on the golf course and practice. Because if your golf course had, let's say, because they always say this, they say, well, my golf course has a ton of fairway bunkers or my golf course has a ton of severe slope, around the green. I go, great. Get on the green and practice it around the green. Go on the green, go on the 3rd hole, the 4th hole, the 10th hole and practice that. Okay. You got a lot of long bunker shots, fairway bunker shots, throw some balls in the fairway bunker. Go on the 15th hole and drop 20 balls in that fairway bunker and hit it out of it. See what, work on it, manage it. Well, I mean, obviously we'll give you the technique and the fundamentals to do it, but you got to go practice it. But I know they don't do it because they think that the knowledge we're going to give them in that 3 or 4 minutes or the 10 minutes or the 20 minutes we're instructing them is going to solve that situation. it's going to help them in this situation, but they've got to go experience it numerous times to get comfortable with it. And the only way you can do that, like I said, is to get on the golf course and do it. And the other reason I bring this up is because hopefully most of you guys know, but Todd and I are building a teaching or practice facility. And it's going to be, I believe it's going to be the best practice facility in the world. I mean, I'm going to be real biased to this, but we got 80 acres that we bought back. It was a golf course. We bought it back, and we had our old academy out there. We were doing our academy. So it's a huge academy. It's a 4,000 square foot indoor, outdoor, open up the garage doors, hit out academies with top tracer out there and all, everything you can imagine. We're going to have our office buildings out there, 7,000 square feet office buildings with, I'm managing all my staff, and we're going to, obviously a huge maintenance barn. But it's going to be a massive range. In fact, I was out there yesterday, and the tee deck is over 120 yards long, massive tee deck. And there's going to be 6 holes in the golf course. But the beauty of this place is it's a practice facility. So I'm out there yesterday with the architect and Todd and some other guys, and we're walking the facility, and Thomas Purvis, who's kind of managing the whole project with us. And we're designing a short game green out there, actually the left of the driving range. And we literally, yesterday, we wanted to put these bunkers in there. So we have these high lip bunker shots, these low lip bunker shots. You can turn sideways and hit out that bunker into the fairway. Down the range. So you got some fairway bunkers. And then we want to mount it to the right. So we got all these downhill lies, uphill lies, side hill lies. Okay. So we're literally trying to create all these different scenarios to practice off of in the practice facility. Very unique. But here's the other deal. And this kind of goes back to that same first story. When I was talking to the lady at our school, I said, this is exactly why Todd and I are building this our practice facility. It's 6 holes to go out and practice. So think about it. We're going to design, we have a dog leg right, we have dog leg lefts, we have shots you got to hit over trees, we got long bunker shots, we got short bunker shots, we got bunkers 50 yards out from the green, we got bunkers up against the green. We got greens that slope off at 50 degrees to the left side of the green. It's like it's a wall on the side of the screen. We got ones that are perfectly flat. We got shots. We got this 6 holes, 2 par 5s, 2 par 4s, 2 par 3s. This 6 holes is designed to come up to try to create every shot you could possibly have in golf. Well, why? Because it's not about going out and playing those 6 holes and keeping a score. Hey, I shot the course record. That's not what it is. It's about going over there and, man, I'm not very good at this shot. I'm going to try this. Maybe just drive out to the 3rd hole. It's a little par 3 or top of a creek. It's going to be like a 9 iron or an 8 iron that's got a tuck pin in the right, how about you just drive out there and hit some shots in that? Because whatever, see, it's to practice on the golf course. So we believe that if we put a 6-hole facility out there, people aren't going to put in their brain, this is a place you got to go and, walk, and stay up with the grip behind you and knock, and be timed correctly and go shoot your score and turn it for. No, it's not about turning in a handicap off this course. It's about practicing and getting better on the course. That's what it is. So think about the facility then. You could go to the range and work on your swing. You could go and film your swing. It's going to be very easy. You can get top tracer and actually be able to watch your swing, you actually can register your swing. It's amazing. You could go over to the short game facility. You can work on all these uphill, downhill, side hill lies, everything from 100 yards in. We have literally a tee box set up at 80 yards, 90 yards, hit shots into the green. Massive putting green. You can work all these different slopes in the green and go work on your short putts. But then you can go on the golf course and you can put it into play. And if you miss a shot out of the rough, you can hit 10 shots from there. Try it. If you have a flop shot on the golf course, it's an elevated tuck pin. Try it. It's funny. The key to this golf course is going to be about these greens that aren't going to be huge, because we want to make it target golf. But one day the green may be tucked on the right, one day maybe tucked on the left, maybe one day in the front, obviously one day maybe in the back. Different shots, different approaches to those type of pins. The only way you can experience that is on the golf course. That's the only way. And that's the other thing. And the last thing I'll bring up about this, and I'm sure this will lead into further topics in other podcasts, but here's the deal. People always ask the question, and they always say, and people describe it, most said, the longest walk in golf is from the practice tee to the first tee, okay? You get nervous, you go out there, things change and so on. But here's the deal. The only way to lessen the nerves on a golf course is to experience it numerous times. So do not expect to walk into a tournament and say, hey, for the first tournament you played in forever, or maybe the first this year, and say, okay, I'm not going to be nervous. I'm going to handle this really well. No, you're not. You've got to experience it again and again and again to lessen those nerves and know how to deal with those nerves to be good in the situation. Well, here's the deal. When you get in a golf course, it is completely different than on the practice facility. We know that. But the only way to lessen those nerves is to experience it again and again and again. But here's the problem. let's say you're not good at certain shots in the golf course. Maybe it's a downhill lie with a hybrid in your hand. I can name 2 or 3 of those in my home course that are long par 4s. I'm typically hitting hybrids into, and they're downhill lies, and they're tough. I mean, a couple of them are even carry over water. They're tough, and they're nerve-wracking. Well, if I'm only going to give it one shot and just top into the water, thin into the water or whatever, or maybe I hit it decent, but I don't hit the shot well ever, there's nowhere to practice that except on the golf course. And that's all I can say about that. There's nowhere I can mimic that. I can try everything in the world to sit there in the range and mimic that. Nope, can't find a spot. I can try to think about it in my head. I'm just going to go over my head and make this stronger. No, you got to get on the golf course and do it again. And because then the other thing it does, and this is the biggest thing, this kind of I want to end this podcast, but ultimately what it does is when you're hitting that shot numerous times on the golf course and practicing the golf course, it gives you confidence that you can't gain anywhere else. Okay. It is. And here's the deal. Confidence takes time. Confidence will be gained over time. But the only way to do that is to sit there and try that shot again and again. And then all of a sudden you pull it off a couple of times. Trust me, it's not going to be all of a sudden, man, I can hit the shot perfect. No, you may be able to do it 1 out of 3 times. And maybe next time you do it, 2 out of 5 times. And maybe next time, maybe 4 or 5 out of 10 times. But then all of a sudden you realize, man, I can pull this off. And all of a sudden, man, maybe I need to adjust this a little bit. Maybe this feels a little bit different this way. Maybe you will get that on the golf course. No matter whether it's that flop shot getting over a bunker, whether it's maybe that high bunker you're hitting it through, maybe it's that downhill lie you're hitting it off of, maybe it's just getting off the first tee, whatever it is. You got to do it numerous times to get that confidence. And all of a sudden, now you come back to that situation when you're playing golf for a score, for your handicap, with your buddies, whatever it is. But your brain isn't going to forget that confidence. You're going to sit there and say, yep, I can pull this off now, or I have a better chance of pulling it off now, or I have more confidence in it now. And the only way you can do that is to get out there practicing the course. So, I know I'm saying that again and again and again, like a broken record, but again, it's not shocking because I've seen it numerous times now, but it still amazes me. It's probably a good word for it. How I'll bring this up in our schools. And I think people that hear my podcast and listen to webinars and things have heard me preach about this before, and I still get a majority. It's always a majority of students who they get these big glassed eyes, and I look at them and they're confused. Like they can't believe you could actually do that. Like they don't even imagine doing that. I'm like, this is a huge difference. This is what really good players do. And I'll give you the last story here, then I think I'll wrap up this podcast for today. But one of the guys I practice with is Scott Burplink. And Scott's a really good guy. Scott's an OSU player, a few years older than me, and plays in the Champions Tour. Some of you guys know him, some of you don't. He's actually won the Western Open as an amateur, and then he obviously had a very good career, and played a lot of Ryder Cups and so on. And he's out there every day. In fact, I see probably Scott more than anybody else at the golf course. And let me kind of give you his practice scenario, which is interesting. And I brought this up in the school too. And Scott will go out in the golf course. When he gets there in the morning, he usually goes stretches, loosens up. He's probably worked out before he gets there, typically. But when he gets on the golf course, he'll go get in the golf course and loosen up. And he'll get out there and he'll hit some wedges, hit some middle irons, some drivers. I mean, I see it every day I'm home. I see this. So he's very routine oriented in this. And then what he'll do is, it's funny, but when you look out in the golf course, I know this is unique to our course, but you can see number 6, 7, and 8 from the range. You can see a little bit of the front end of the front range. And he's always kind of taking a peek down there. And if Scott's listening to this, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. But when it opens up, he'll hop in his cart and he'll take off and he'll go play 6, 7, and 8. It's a short par 4, a long par 4, and then a little par 3. And it's okay. And he'll go play his 3 holes. And sometimes he'll play it once, sometimes he'll play it twice. I call it the Verplank loop. It's kind of funny. And then he'll come off number 8. Sometimes he'll play 9. Most times he won't. And he'll just drive back under the range. And he'll come back to the back of the range and he'll start hitting some more balls and do some things. And I know what he's doing right now is he's working on something that he had broken down in the golf course. Okay. And then he'll go and he'll look and he'll keep watching the arrow and he'll jump back out there. And then the second time he goes out there and he'll jump on those holes, he'll start hitting numerous shots out there. Like it may be a long iron into the number 7, or maybe like a flop shot in number 6. But he'll start hitting different shots. He'll hit 3, 4, 5, sometimes more than that shots in the golf course. And I see it. Sometimes I go out there with him. But I'll watch him do this little loop, and he'll do this 2 or 3 or 4 times in a given practice day. Okay. And so what he's doing is he's on the golf course, working on shots in the course. He's jumping onto the range, working on things, trying, okay, let me see if I can hit a few of those in the range. And he runs it back on the golf course. But he's not playing a given round of golf. He's playing his shots on the golf course, saying, will this work? Will it not? Trying to work on this. What's strong? What's weak? And so on. And folks, yes, that is unique. A lot of times it's hard to get that opportunity, but this is what makes the really good players. Okay. People always want the secrets. So I was like, you're all these great players. What's the secrets? What's the secrets? This is what makes the really good players. Yesterday, my couple I played with, and Leanne, who I played with, was yesterday. We were playing in Oak Tree National. We're playing is an extremely difficult golf course. In fact, it's rated the toughest golf course in the United States right now. Okay, they just opened it up. They closed for about a year and a half. They redid the greens. They redid some of the bunkering on the course. I think it's going to hold the 2027 Senior PGA Championship. I mean, incredibly hard golf course. Great golf course. Great golf course. And they do a great job keeping it up. It's just fantastic. But we're out there playing yesterday, and I took Leanne out and kind of getting ready for the tournament. And of course, it's brutal around the greens. I mean, you miss a shot around the green, or you hit the middle of the green and bounce over the back. I mean, it's going to be one of the toughest up and downs you'll ever have in every hole. And we get on the 17th tee, and Leanne looks at me, and we're talking about Viktor Hovland a little bit. And Leanne goes, she looked at me and she said, what would he hit in this hole? And it's a little par 3 and something, blah, blah, blah. And I said, probably from here, 6 or 7 iron. He's just talking about Viktor because I've seen him hit shots in the hole before. And then she said, why do you think he's become as good as he has? And then she looked at me and she goes, well, he's improved his short game, right? And I said, of course. I said, that was everybody says it's weakness, but Viktor doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses, let's be honest. But his short game was, out of all his game, was his weakness. And I said, and she goes, well, where did he practice? She started asking me, how did he practice it? And I said, Leanne, look where you're playing right now. All he had to do was get on this golf course and manage his way around this golf course and practice the shots on this golf course. And what do you think his short game would be like? And she looked at me and she goes, exactly. Because she already played 9 holes with me, and she's like, these are such hard, up and downs. I said, where could he have practiced this in a practice facility? And she goes, no way. She goes, there's no way. And I said, exactly. I said, his short game has gotten to where it is because of getting on this course and practicing these shots over and over and over again, all these different unique shots on the golf course. And she goes, that makes so much sense. I go, yeah, that's where it came from. So I don't care if you're a guy who can't break 100. I don't care if you're a guy who's brand new to golf. I don't care if you're somebody who's, trying to break, shooting, the 70s. I don't care if you're a scratch golfer. I figure scratch golfers probably already figured this out, but you've got to figure out a way at times to get on the golf course and practice on the course. That is massive. Okay. That is massive. That's where I want to end it today with this podcast. And guys, work with your local pro, work with your local assistants. If you need to work with one of your superintendents, I mean, a lot of times you can do it without, get on the golf course after the last group goes off, get on the golf course before the first group goes off. That'll work too. But if you need to, go in and talk to your pro. Just say, hey, I'd like to get out there. It's really quiet. They all know the times. They won't have a problem with that. Say, I want to go out there and, be able to hit a few shots out there and practice a little bit in the course. They'll be fine with that. They do it. If they're players, they do it. And just talk to them about it. Say, when can I get there and practice a little bit? Okay. And then, and find that. Or next, I guess, spring and April and May when our grass gets grown in, and come to our facility here, because that's what it's going to be built for. Our training facility is going to be all about that, and come in here and practice here too. But anyway, so guys, I want to thank you for joining us for this podcast. And the next one, I will probably talk a little bit more about the mental game, and so on the golf course and so on, because I have a mental game, alert, attitude, and difference school coming up in a week and a half. And I'm going to have a lot of students there, have a lot of fun there. And that always gives me some new topics to talk about. But again, I want to thank you guys for joining us for this podcast. I'll talk to you guys real quick.